So if you're setting up a website, and I've basically finished with this one, it's not perfect, it's not very fancy, but it's clean and it's going to work well. And I've only spent a few hours on it, and now I can leave it alone and focus on my writing. And I can add content later. I'll show you, we'll talk more about what kind of content you need to be creating on your blog to get traffic. But just as kind of a something that's up and it looks fine, it's probably better than a lot of other things that you could try to do on your own. It's even better than a lot of the sites that people spend several $1,000s on, just because those can tend to get out of control and too messy and too slow to load. This one's going to be pretty fast because it's simple, although I've got to keep track of these photos. When you upload photos to WordPress, you've got to make sure you're not uploading really huge ones and then scaling them down, because they'll take a long time to load. But it's basically done. All I need to do is integrate a mailing list somewhere on the sidebar and maybe a few of the other pages, because what I really want people to do, I mean, later when I finish a bunch of books, I'll add a new page where I'll say my books and people can buy the books and go to Amazon and buy them. But in the beginning, I really need to focus on building my email list, because that's going to give me a lot of power later if I have a lot of people who are anxious or ready or at least open to the idea of downloading my books. I'll add another blog post about different companies you can choose for a mailing list. I'll write about that and link to it below. I use MailChimp. The main companies are MailChimp and Aweber. Both of them are free to begin, but then the price increases depending on how many people you have sign up. So with MailChimp, it's free until you have 2,000 users, but then they start charging. And once you get up to like 10,000 users, you're paying, I think, over $100 a month, which can get pretty expensive. So you need to also always be culling the list. So when you get too many, you can check and see if nobody's opened your email. Like if somebody if somebody isn't opening any of the emails you send, you can just take them off your list, because it's kind of a waste to be sending them email if they don't want to read it. And that way you can keep your list kind of just focused on the people who really take action and really support you. So this is a brand new account I just signed up with because I made this new website, which is Urban Epics. I got an email that was derek@urbanepics.com and just signed up for a new MailChimp account. I have several MailChimp accounts and you can split them into different lists, but if you're using them all together, then I might have 10 or 20,000 people on different accounts, but I'm paying because I'm past that 2,000 limit. So every time I start a new project, I'll start over with a new account and a new email. So I start with 0, which will let me build up to that 2,000 level without really worrying about money, because it's free until I get 2,000 subscribers. And by the time I get 2,000 subscribers, I'll probably be ready with a bunch of novels that I can start earning money on. And it's worth it. I mean, MailChimp or Aweber is worth the money as long as you're making some profit. If you're not making any profit with your books, then it's a waste of money. So you need to be aware of it. And there's other options. There's other free options for sending email. There's some WordPress plugins and stuff. And I'll write a post about those so you can try those out as well. I tend to start with this one because I'm going to do it professionally and I plan to make money with my fiction. So it's not really, I don't see it as an investment. I just see it as part of the cost of business. And hopefully if I'm making a couple thousand a month on book sales, then 100 a month on my email list isn't a big deal, because that's going to be one of the main resources I use to drive sales. I'm just going to create a list because there isn't a list yet. And hopefully this will go pretty quickly. I have no lists, so I'm going to create a list. And I'm just going to say fiction. And I could use any email, but I'm just going to use the Urban Epics email. I can change any of this later. You want to remind people how they got on this list, so I can say you signed up for free books at urbanepics.com. I've got to change my address. That's kind of weird. That's my email. I can change all this stuff later. Oops. I have to write something here. But I basically just want to set something up because then I can try to get a form. And I'll also want to go through, and there's a process, so I'll have to look at all the forms and see which one I'm putting up. I'll try a super slim. This is what the form might look like, and it depends a little bit on the theme. So it's possible that the CSS here isn't going to play nice with my theme. That happens pretty often, in which case I'll try to use a workaround. But let's give it a shot. So we'd go to, I could just try to put it in the sidebar by just pasting this code. And that might work. It seems like it worked pretty well. So here's the mailing list, and it's here. And that works probably okay if I want to put it here. But some research has shown that, first of all, you don't want to just put subscribe to your mailing list because that's bland and doesn't really say anything. You don't want to have a subscribe button. You want to have join now or get access, free books, something that's a little more enticing than subscribe to mailing list, because no one's going to do that. This button is a lot stronger. So instead of putting it here, actually, I'm going to take that off. What I really want to do is put it on probably this page, the free books page. Here where I just put in sign up form for now. And if I edit that page, hopefully the sign up form will look halfway decent. And so I'll just delete this, and then I'll go into the code view and I'll paste that code. And it looks like that. It's not so well styled. I could change it. I could put a big button here, but it'll work and it looks pretty decent. But I'm going to change the subscribe. So I'll edit the page again. And I have to look in this code for this. So instead of subscribe to our mailing list, I'll say join now for free books, which is a little bit better. And then maybe instead of subscribe, I'll say get access. And I'll probably want to change that and test to see what works the best. Join now for free books, subscribe. It's I could have a bigger, nicer sign up form if I wanted. I think I put a nicer one on one of my other sites. Let's see. On my book cover site, I also have an opt-in offer, but I used a plugin that actually looks pretty good. So I'll find out what that is and then put it on my on the blog post I'm going to write and link to below on this page, I think. So here I have this big sign up box, which is just a little bit nicer looking. It has a little description, and I'm just using a plugin for that. And it's also set up to link to my MailChimp account that I set up. So you can use different WordPress plugins to make the boxes and the style of your MailChimp, your sign up look better. And again, you don't have to use MailChimp. You could use other email subscription services. But so if somebody signs up here and hits subscribe, then they will be added to my list. In the next video, I'll talk a little bit about what you need to do with your list, but I won't talk too much. I have some other resources and guides for more general book marketing that's going to talk a lot about how to use an email list to sell books. But this video series is just focusing on setting up a quick author website, so I won't go into much detail. But for now, I've got it here. I probably also want it on this special offer page at the bottom. So I would do the same thing. I would just edit the page and then put put that code on the bottom. And I'll clean it up later, and I might want to make something that looks a little cooler or nicer. That should be centered. But again, it's there, it's going to work not too badly, and it'll get people onto my list. And so this is where I could send people, I just put this link in the back of any of my books, or I could add somebody's pictures and an offer, or I could make a different offer page depending on which book. Like if I wanted to just give them one specific book of a series, then I could send them to a different page. But mostly because I'll be adding them all to the same list. You can divide and segment your list in MailChimp. So instead of having one list, I could have one list for one book series, another list for another book series. But I'm just going to keep them all together and assume that fans of one of my series is going to probably like another one as well. And if they don't, they can ignore the email. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about what to do in the next video. I'm going to stop this one here.